Good morning, Lorenzanites. Today we take a day off. A day off interplanetary rescues, science retrieval missions, and crew snack replenishments. All that serious stuff is going out the window. Look, here we have the alarm clock. That's the only serious thing today, where we have 24 days until we need to look at this rescue probe to the Moho mission, and almost 2 years until we have to pay attention to the Duna crew. Right, so that gives us 24 days to dig around. Fortunately, we have a few vessels that can do that. You may remember, if you have watched the previous episodes, that we have a brutal overhead return gap, which is a ludicrous vessel, but for today I'm thinking to launch the Tarazi Greifswolf Cooperation Hype. This. And then, should that go well against all expectations, we can even consider launching the Ryan, bolt them together to the asteroid, and get an Hyperion going. Well, we can't even behold the jolliness of this thing as it is standing here on the VAB. We have to ferry it out to the launch pad. Any rocket that has as its nose more engines is a good rocket in my book. Now let's make sure there's no crew trapped in any of these things. This is the action groups, this is the crew. We are definitely not sending any crew in there. We only have 3 more astronauts on the ground, so we might have to spend the next few episodes to actually retrieving some of our brave men, because that's the one rule I'm going to cling to, is no astronaut replacements, I think. So, true brethren, standing tall, nice. Short and powerful description. Well, let's wheel it out to the launch pad and see what happens there. Of course, we didn't have any casualties so far. All of our 7 missing astronauts are in fact on missions either in the Kerbal Solar System or, well, they're all in the Kerbal Solar System, but either in the Kerbin system or out on interplanetary jaunts. So here we have it, the Tarazi Greifswolf Cooperative Hype. And this thing is crowding 1,000 parts. It's almost that, I think it's about 880. So that will in fact be laggy, even on my nice new computer, I'm sorry to say. So I hope you'll bear with me as we target the starbase, and we want to of course launch while we're somewhat underneath that, so that we may, well, actually rendezvous with that asteroid. And unfortunately, that seems to mean, oh no, we can of course also wait until we have a day launch again. We're not going for a night launch with this. We shall wait until we are cross under the orbit here, and then we can attempt a daylight launch, because, you know, we like to be able to see where we explode. I think this shall be quite close enough, and with the station here we can just sorta aim right for it. But let's first see if we can even get it up off the pad. There we go, lots of rockets boosting. Seems to go straight up, that's fine so far. We shall of course be heading south, southerly, that's this direction, and a little bit to the west. So that's south, that heading, I think. Right, here we go, this is actually going quite a lot more stable than I was expecting, but then again, there's a lot of thrust and there's not a lot of stuff in the way of that thrust. Lots of trusses, lots of things, but maybe not a lot of mass. I don't know. I dread to think how this will control once we get it up to, well, space really, but we shall worry about that when the time comes to actually do that. I don't think I'll rendezvous it with the asteroid in this episode, because there's more crazy stuff I want to launch, and this is the Mad Ships crazy day off timeout edition, so no complex interesting stuff, just crazy ships, I was gonna say ships, not shit, crazy ships of the launch pad. So let's see what you guys have for me in store. Once these things run out, they will be separated. I'm guessing that's these things. Yeah, probably. And then I'm going to be really careful on the pitch over, because, well, it is a beast here. We're running 11 frames per second. Not huge, not the 60 I'm used to these days, but for vessels like these, with dockable parts like those, we shall gladly suffer. And I think the frame rate should auto improve when we we shed some of these rockets. Then again, most of the parts are these girders and solar panels here. They are physics-less, I believe, but I don't know how they impact performance. Anyway, there go. There's some explosions, but I think they happen on the bits that have fallen off. Yeah, they are all crashing into one another, but the rocket proper is continuing its ascent, and that is good. We're at 9 kilometers now. We can start thinking about slightly pitching over. And I say slightly because there's wings on the rocket and our speed is not that great, so we don't want to have too much of a deflection, because then the rocket just might fall over, and of course that's something we don't want to happen. See, it's veering all over the place. I don't know why there's crew canisters here. I'm happy I've taken the people out of it. In the middle, in the center spine, what do we have here? We have fuel, we have docking ports. It looks like a proper space station. We have hitchhiker crew storage. If we can manage to put this on the asteroid, we shall be happy, because then we will have built something awesome. Let's have a look. Our launch... Oh yeah, we're still going slow enough that our vector this way is messing up that direction, but that's being fixed as we speak. Right, coming up on the second stage, separation. We're at 19 kilometers now, can consider a little bit more pitch over, and I think this rocket will have enough brawn to put us into space. We're at 15 frames per second. That is a definite improvement, but still nowhere near good enough. But oh, this is not a great time to start steering and wobbling, but I'm afraid we will have no choice. I hope there is enough separatrons on this to, well, make this work. Oh god, yes, it did work, but we are now rather officially out of control. We have RCS though, that helps things a little bit. We can turn this way and aim in the direction of the station. We're up to 16 frames per second, ditched some parts again. The rocket is flexing like a mother though, and I'm very concerned about that, but I think she'll hold together. What do we have here? We still have 50 degrees, but that is lessening. We are slowly but surely heading in the correct direction, if we can wrench this rocket around. On the news front of things from the real world, the Copenhagen suborbital's engine test has unfortunately failed, although not in a fireball, thank the heavens. Their liquid oxygen tank, the pressure sensor in that malfunctioned. They couldn't read the pressure, and then their safety disc burst, which vented the whole oxygen tank well into the fuselage of the rocket, which quite understandably halted the test. They say nothing important was damaged or destroyed, although it was obviously a setback. They've put a positive spin on things by saying that, well, at least now they know that their thermal insulation for lots of critical components does actually work. So I suppose that's something. Something else that happened is... well, something else happened, but I forgot about it. Oh well, maybe later in the episode I will have more news for you. Let's see, we're at 28 degrees. That's still not great, but then again, this rocket is not great to control. We're at 60 kilometers, almost on the edge of space. I'm going to enable RCS. Do we have a lot of that? Not an infinite amount, but certainly an amount. We need about 1 kilometer per second of speed. We are accelerating at about 2 Gs, so that shouldn't take too long. And I'm using the direction marker, well, the vector to the target marker as the proper inclination, which is pretty much accurate. Oh, we're veering all the way around, which is not something we want, so I'm actually going to cut the thrust here. And I'm going to attempt to use RCS to steer us back on course. And this is definitely a beast to fly. Our apoapsis at the moment is a modest 85 kilometers, so we're not there yet. We're only going at 1200 meters per second. And well, the RCS system on these thrusters are struggling to accurately yank these big fuel tanks around. So let's now try that with just the vectors from the fuel tank. Try locking SAS on and just boosting at full speed. Just boosting at full speed sounds like something that should work every time, but surprisingly it doesn't. Let's have a peek at these markers again. We're now at 9 degrees, which is, well, pretty good. We might even do a in-orbit correction for that. That's manageable. So it does look as though we are headed the right way. Same thing with our orbital speed. That is actually coming together rather nicely. And the starbase is orbiting at 226 kilometers. So we shall keep burning until our apoapsis is at a similar amount. 6 degrees. And well, it seems that we're somewhat stable again as well. So good things happening across the board. 90 kilometers. Actually, I'm going to call it at 110, then we can leave it in a slightly lower orbit, and I think we actually are in orbit because the camera did its thing. And that will be easy for rendezvous purposes. So let's put this in a maneuver node. 139 kilometers. Here we are. We need only 90 meters per second more, which is a piece of cake for this big booster stage. We have a frame rate of 23 at the moment. It's still rather low, but definitely playable for sure when we're building space stations. Unfortunately, I do think that this means that the asteroid base will become a lag fest. Then again, once these thrusters are in place, maybe they don't have to move so much. Maybe the game won't simulate them. No, it doesn't work that way, I'm afraid. But of course, without we will still ditch stuff. We have a playable frame rate. On the other hand, there is another module to this, the two brethren that will encompass the asteroid. So we shall see how that goes. For now, though, let's first worry about finishing up that orbit. Let's see. Oh, the ship is flexing and breaking apart again, but I think we have attained orbit. 210 by 116 with an inclination of 4.7 degrees. That's actually great. That's not bad at all. So we can leave this here for the moment. Wait, does it have solar panels? I think it has 1 million of them. But do they need deploying? We can't leave it without power. That would be too much of a pity. Yeah, we have lots of Oxstat solar panels. So we can go to the Space Center and launch our second crazy rocket. And for the second one, I'm thinking of none other than the Scorpion by Nathan Jesse P, the only one. And this is a vertical takeoff vehicle, and I have no idea how to fly it. I forgot. We can also do the Dragonfly, that looks good also. The Scornful Scorpion. 400 parts, -7, 393 parts, and it just looks amazing. We shall endeavor to put it into orbit, and then we will have it at our disposal to, well, to do stuff with. Are Kerbals going on here? I think we need to crew this one, and I think Bill is the right choice for it. Yeah, there's no question about it. That's definitely one for Bill. Is there a description? Are there flight instructions? Now I know there were flight instructions with the email that sent this in. Oh, I think this came from the VAB. Oh well, I put it in the, the spaceplane hangar. I put it in the VAB, we'll see how that goes. No instructions, I'm just going to stage. How does that work? Is this just a rocket that is oriented like this? Is there a transition that happens? I think Bill is in great peril. Hi Bill. Look, none of this swivels, I don't think. So we just fly it. No, none of this swivels, but it does come off. So these are aerojets. So we fly them straight up until they cease to work. Then we ditch them and light the rockets. That sounds easy enough. So let's go for it. Let's go for it. Is there a thing that we can control it from? Yes, we can control it from the docking port. Then we have our more traditional rocket view. There we go. Maybe this is worthwhile to do from the internal view. Let's try this. Okay guys, here goes. Okay, that's the aerojet spooling up. Throttle is on. I might need to steer it a bit. We are gaining altitude. This seems to be going fine. I have maybe we can drive it a little bit like a helicopter. Oh shit, this is awesome. This is really well made. Let's bear on the outside for a second. There's RCS even. Look at that. This is so stable, I can't believe it. That has reverted control back to the cockpit, so now we're aiming to keep this reticule on the north line. Because even though the helicopter-like maneuvering capabilities are interesting, we still want to go straight up and turn this into a rocket at the first opportunity. So let's move back to the internal view. I like that. Oh, we're at 120 meters per second. Let's pull up the resources tab. I think if this intake air starts to get low, we might have to switch to rocket thrust. But for now, we are just heading straight up. Yeah, maybe we can have a look around. We can see the mountains there. I'm trying to keep my eye on the nav ball not to get too crazy with the rotation. Speed is increasing. We are at just a kilometer of altitude? No, 8 kilometers. I don't know how to read this properly. Is this one just a 10? We're at... Is this a 10? I think so. That means we're at about 11 kilometers now. The air is getting thinner. We are going up at about 200 meters per second. That's rather quick. We're still accelerating. Intake air is dropping off. Several things can happen. Either, oh, it doesn't. I don't think it might not matter because the fuel is running out as well. If one side of the engine conks out first, then we're screwed because we'll spin. At any point I can now switch to rocket thrust. Here we can start to see the curvature of Kerbin. Yeah, I'm getting scared. I'm going to switch to rockets. For that I'm going to cut the engines, cut them, switch and go. Oh yes. Something is happening. Something is happening. The sound has changed. I saw some stuff falling. It's much harder to control now. We're going up faster. Okay. Now where do we want to point? We want to point towards the ground. Now that will put us in a polar orbit. We want to point towards the ocean. We want to go this way. So let's attempt that. We want to point this way so that we might make it into orbit. We're still going up more. Okay, I'm going to. I think this will correspond with a 45-degree pitch. That seems good. We're at 45 kilometers of altitude. Is there stuff we have to drop? Because we have empty fuel tanks on the thing. I don't dare stage them now, though. Let's pitch over completely. We're looking down. That's pretty fun. That's pretty awesome. Let's look up a little bit. I find it... Okay, our engines have burned out. Okay, let's get rid of them. And... I think I did this completely wrong. Light the second set. Oh, we have thrust again, but... bits of our ship have gone. I wonder if we're actually going in the correct direction now. It seems to be. Although our orbital speed is only rising slowly, so we might just be doing it completely wrong. Let's have a look outside. Oh, this is awesome. It seems to me that we're doing fine. If we control from here, yeah, this is completely fine. I don't know why I was being worried. The engines just aren't super powerful. That's no problem at all. So we can just look from here whilst we boost into orbit. Wonderful. I realize now maybe I have shortchanged you all on the magnificent view of this Scorpion as it launches or clambers or crawls or I don't know, goes into orbit. But I enjoyed doing that from the internal view. I like that. It was an adventure. And my mouse is being an adventure as well. I can't click this button anymore. Ah, there we go. Look, that's something else we did. It might be, well, it might be anything. For now though, 1500 meters per second. I don't know if we can make it to any planet with this. Because the fuel is, it's not that low. This is, we might need some manual fuel bumping or something, because these bars are a lot lower than they appear to be. They appear to be for, I don't know. I want to land this somewhere. I think we're gonna go for Minmus, because that's easy, but we might go for the moon, because that's hard. And we do these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. Do we have gears? What happens if I hit the gear key? We get wheels. Ooh, that's a low amount of clearance, but we have RCS, so we might drive. What do we have? Does happen when we have lights? We have some lights as well. Awesome. So now we have Bill almost in orbit. Oh, we're falling already. Are we in fact almost in orbit? Well, I think that will work out. Let's pitch up just a little bit, just in case. And if this was a combat fighter, the laser would be here. For sure. Okay. That's it. The apoapsis is ahead of us again. That means we can pitch down to the horizon. Almost perfect orbit, mostly from the internal view. And that camera wobble indicates our attainment of a stable, well, not quite a stable, of an orbit, which now is stable. Right. So that was the Scorpion and the Hype, part 1 of the Hyperion. Let's get back to the Space Center and see what else we have in store, what we can do. I got one submission from, was it James Genty? Put the names of your ships in the names of the ship. Put your names in the name of the ship, then I can remember from here. We got this, the KPRR Larry Walters. It had a description with it which said, "Yo dog, heard you like rescuing, so here's a rescue ship to rescue the ship that's rescuing while it runs out of fuel," or something like that. Because apparently the Moho rescue ship is doomed to run out of fuel. I don't know about that, it's not at Moho yet. We will give them a fighting chance, and if not, we shall repurpose the ship as a snack rescuer. But this rescue vessel is just bonkers. Are the Kerbals supposed to climb in between these two decouplers? Is actually this big decoupler meant as a parachute landing thing as soon as there's a Kerbal here? These parachutes are, I think, attached to the decoupler. Do we want to trust all the science from Moho to a ring of steel with seats on it? That's the question. It doesn't look crazy, this ship. It looks completely conventional. But boy is it crazy. Is it ever so crazy? Is it ever so crazy? The KPRR Larry Walters. If Larry Walters is the name of the guy that designed this, I don't know why I put his name on it. Because the guys that are going to come home on this, they will not want to, they will find him and egg his house, or worse. So we shall just put it in orbit and have it on standby, because if the first rescue mission fails, Well, we have to send the metal ring with Jers. We're gonna bring these guys home one way or another. Of course, are we gonna test it first? Hell no. So let's put this into orbit. This should be fairly conventional with asparagus staging that drop off one by one, like so. That's one. And here comes two. And finally, there's three. Now we are on the center booster, which I think will service the rest of the way in orbit. And when that runs out, we are left with nothing but the big nuclear engines that are carrying a big drop tank full of fuel. And frankly, I'm not looking forward to using this because, oh, the burns will take so long. Also, it seems to be really unbalanced because I can't seem to stop this rotation, although that might be a leftover effect from the separation. Let me just deploy these solar panels for good measure. At the very least, there's 2 orange tanks worth of fuel and then some in orbit, ready to be accessed by anything with a grabber on it. Actually, that might be the saving grace of this mission, because the first rescue relief effort has a grabber unit, and say that does manage to rendezvous with the science guys, but doesn't make it home. This could meet it halfway. It could grab it, siphon its fuel, and then take the Kerbals home in their seats instead of this death ring. Because much as I like the innovation, I don't like the thought of strapping 2 out of the irreplaceable 10 into these dread containers. Right, now let's see if we can arrest this rotation to ascertain the viability of the ship. Let's see if we fire the engines. It doesn't seem to tumble anymore, so that's not engine induced, that was just an artifact of the separation. Oh, I did screw up the orbit doing that, of course I did. Let's light the engines once more and push that out of the atmosphere. That's important, you guys. You need to not crash into the atmosphere before your rescue effort gets underway. That is imperative. 45, we are boosting a little bit in the wrong direction, but fortunately that has been fixed by now. So there we have it, 75. That is decent, so we can... Now here we have 3 crazy ships in orbit, ready to do crazy stuff with in the future. For now though, I'm going to round off this episode. Nothing achieved, no landmarks, nothing except 3 more vessels of craziness in space. I hope you enjoyed. I'm Lorenzo. See you next episode. Goodbye.